The PS5 has been about for over 2.5 years now and has accumulated a load of brilliant games, from big budget masterpieces like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok to popular franchises like Call of Duty and Far Cry. But for all the titles out there, there is always one thing that will happen. There's going to be some titles that will fall behind on the wayside. Be it review scores or launching at a busy time of year, some games will get forgotten about. So today I'm bringing you a list of 10 underrated games for the PS5. These games are going to be in random order, but they're all worth giving a go and all reasonably priced. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up is Ghostwire Tokyo. Bethesda's last game currently for PlayStation systems after they're bought out by Microsoft. Ghostwire Tokyo is from Evil Dead developer Tango Gameworks, and this game is something completely different. Set in Tokyo, it sees you playing as Akito, a young man who wakes up alone in the streets of Shibuya after a mysterious fog hits the city. Akito suddenly realizes Tokyo is now infested with paranormal visitors. A spirit KK inhabits Akito and they try to piece together what is going on in Tokyo. The game is such a unique experience. It's a first-person action game with combat similar to a first-person shooter, but all the moves you pull off are kind of reminiscent of Doctor Strange with all his spells. It's all really cool purging all these different spirits. The game's missions are pretty linear, but it's all centered in a really big open world of Tokyo, and it feels really similar to Sega's own Yakuza franchise, which is no bad thing. For a game that is 12 plus over here in the UK, it's really darn creepy too. The supernatural beings and the stories that happen to these characters are actually really quite dark. Whilst it may not set the world alight, it's a fun, enjoyable game that has also recently hit Game Pass and got a massive free update with the Spiderweb mode, with new missions and enemies. The game is regularly on offer for £20 and is also a part of the PlayStation Plus Extra tier, so it's well worth checking out this creepy little game. Next up, we have Need for Speed Unbound. Another game from last year that kinda disappeared. Coming out at the tail end of last year, Need for Speed Unbound was announced and released in a spate of a couple of months. This one is developed by racing team stalwarts Criterion, and it's a welcome return for the Burnout team. This one did get some talk going about its art style, and when it was first announced, I wasn't that impressed by it, but honestly, in motion, the realistic open world and cars with the cel-shaded characters and effects on cars looks so stylish and cool. I feel it's quite unique and adds quite a bit of charm to the game. As for the gameplay, it's a Need for Speed game, so you already know what to expect. You play as a racer trying to be the best. After a fun tutorial, you're left at the bottom of the scrap heap, trying to work yourself up, upgrading your cars to get to higher tiers of racing and to get back at your rival. It's surprisingly tough in its opening hours, which is nice to see. Once the game opens up, you're in a familiar loop of completing tasks to upgrade your car, but there's a nice twist with the heat rating as the cops will hunt you down both day and night, so there's a good risk-reward element to it. Unbound is easily the best Need for Speed game for nearly a decade, so it's a shame that so many people slept on it. Continuing on, we have Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Here's quite an apt game since the newest film in the series just recently hit cinemas at the time of writing this. Guardians of the Galaxy arrived in 2021 and became the biggest surprise of the year. After the flop that was Marvel's Avengers, hopes weren't high for this, but thankfully it's one of the best Marvel games out there. Following the Guardians, as they're getting into all sorts of scrapes, they accidentally unleash an evil force on the galaxy, so it's up to them to save the day. What surprised me the most was how well written the story and characters were, with every one of the Guardians getting plenty of time to shine and depth to their character. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, the game explores his past and it is really interesting to follow. As for the gameplay, it's a third-person action shooter where you play as Star-Lord only, and you shoot enemies and direct the other Guardians to attack enemies. The combat does start off a bit basic, but once you get more abilities, combat ends up having a really nice rhythm to it. The game is fairly lengthy too, taking upwards of 20 hours to complete, and whilst it kind of runs a bit out of steam part way through, it all works out towards the end. It's a shame the game was a flop and will probably never get a sequel, as this is a truly excellent adventure with one hell of a glorious 80s soundtrack. Continuing on, we have Deathloop, another Bethesda game on the list, and one of the first big titles for the PS5 that was exclusive, but now the game is available on Xbox too. Coming from Dishonored and Prey developers, Arcane, Deathloop felt like it came and went without much fanfare from the commercial side of things. It's strange as it was a huge critical success with so many glowing reviews. Deathloop is one of the most unique and exciting games that I was desperate to pick up when I first got a PS5. Set in the 60s on the fictional island of Black Reef that is stuck in a time loop where the inhabitants are having a never-ending party, you play as a guy called Colt with no memory of how he got there, and we join him as he tries to break the loop and be free of the island. The game's big mechanic is the time loop. You have 8 targets you have to defeat in one day during 4 different time periods. So there's elements of a roguelike here, but you do keep your tools and informations to help you on your crusade. There's a lot of trial and error here, but once the game's mechanics click, you're in for a glorious treat with great gunplay, fun abilities reminiscent of the Dishonored franchise. Fun fact, this is actually set in the same universe. The game offers a great sense of style, a cracking soundtrack, and one of the most original and creative games of this generation. Next up is Octopath Traveler 2. One of the best games of the year so far, and seemingly a bit of a flop with less than stellar commercial reception, which is a shame. The original Octopath Traveler was a true old-school RPG delight when it launched on the Switch all the way back in 2018 and proved to be a big success. And earlier this year, the sequel arrived on the Switch, the PS4 and PS5 to thrill players once again. Octopath Traveler 2 follows another selection of 8 different characters as they all go on their own adventure to right what wrongs has happened to them. A journey of redemption or revenge, every character has their own personal story to tell. And along the way, all 8 characters' paths crosses and they all join up in one massive team. Continuing using the absolutely stunning HD 2D art style that looks incredible on the PS5, it really does feel like a labour of love, and it's always a joy to see these styles of games releasing. As for the combat, it's still a load of fun, breaking enemies' defences in a very strategic and epic feeling battles. Oh, and that soundtrack is an absolute delight for the ears. In an era where turn-based RPGs have become a bit rarer, and while mainline Final Fantasies go more in the action RPG side of things, if you have a thirst for the old school style of RPGs with some cool modern mechanics, then look no further than Octopath Traveler 2. Next up is Riders Republic. Extreme sports game used to be 10 a penny back in the early 2000s, mainly thanks to the Birdman, Tony Hawk himself, and the litany of imitators. But unfortunately, the genre has been quiet for quite a while now, with Pro Skater 5 being a disaster, and the remake of Pro Skater 1 and 2, whilst being absolutely amazing, we won't be getting any new installments anytime soon. But Riders Republic is a fun little extreme sports game that is well worth your time. Coming from the developers of fun winter sports game Steep, Riders Republic takes that same groundwork of that game and uses it for a more expansive sequel with a load of new sports and a new, even bigger open world. You can play alone or online with loads of people, exploring the map or doing the many different trials available. There's biking, skiing, snowboarding, wingsuits, and a few more sports to play, and it's a blast just to play with friends. Whilst it may not have the addictiveness of the Tony Hawk remake, it's still a solid alternative for your extreme sport itch. And again, this one is always on offer, so check it out as there's plenty of bang for your buck here. Next up is Immortals, Fenyx Rising. One of the first ever PS5 games released, coming from Ubisoft again, is easily one of their best and most original games they've released in years. Originally titled Gods and Monsters, Immortals had to change its name due to being confused with that famous energy drinks brand. Yeah, seriously. But Immortals come from the developers of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, who wanted to try something a little bit different, and it certainly is. Essentially, it's Ubisoft's version of Breath of the Wild. Right from its colourful art style and open world progression, you can tell Nintendo's seminal classic inspired this game loads. But that being said, it does a few things different, and in some ways, a few things better than Breath of the Wild. Like no weapon degradation here. Playing as Fenyx, you explore this beautiful open world to rescue the gods to stop Hades. You do this by exploring the world, upgrading your character, solving shrine-like puzzle rooms, and defeating loads of enemies. Immortals does have a load of personality, with plenty of humour from the game's two narrators, Zeus and Prometheus, who constantly bicker, argue, and make dad jokes throughout the adventure. It's hilarious at times and adds so much charm to the game. It's a shame the game kinda came and went without any fanfare, but if you love to play Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom but don't have a Switch, this is a perfect substitute, and it's super cheap, regularly on offer for like 10 to 15 quid, which is a bargain for the amount of game on offer. Next up is Evil West. One of the more recent games on the list, Evil West came out of nowhere late last year to be one of the most fun, creative, and just plain enjoyable games of the last year. Coming from Shadow Warrior developer Flying Wild Hog Studio, the game is set in the Old West and sees you playing as a vampire slaying cowboy with a massive electrical fist. Yeah, seriously. Think something in the lines of Red Dead mixed with The Order 1886 but with vampires, and you get the gist. Whilst its story isn't anything special, the game is truly a blast to play. Feeling like a game you'd get from the PS3 and 360 era, you know what I mean, a 10-hour game with fun gameplay mechanics. It's rare we get these sort of games these days, but Evil West is a triumph like that, with combat similar in the lines of God of War, with the behind-the-shoulder action combat. It's brutal, fun and expansive, adding guns, and there's some really nice variety to the bloody fun. The game is a fun blast from the past that's free from the typical trappings of modern games, such as no microtransactions, no huge open worlds, just an enjoyable 10-hour linear action-adventure title that I think we need a lot more of. And the penultimate game is Sackboy: The Big Adventure. The Little Big Planet games were a complete and utter joy on the PS3 and PS4, delivering a whimsical and wonderful world full of creativity. Whilst the series developers Media Molecule moved over to Dreams, Sackboy has been waiting for a while for a new game. And again, a forgotten gem of the launch era, Sackboy: A Big Adventure is a true platforming delight, delivering a colourful, creative and joyful treat for both the eyes and ears. Developed by quality studio Sumo Digital, Sackboy is a 3D platformer in the lines of Super Mario 3D World and Crash Bandicoot. Seeing the cute little knitted character jump, attacking and explore this wonderfully designed levels, the game has so much swagger to it, with its quality soundtrack that delights with its covers of Madonna's Material Girl, Britney Spears' Toxic, and even a bit of Bowie thrown in. It's a complete and utter joy to play these levels and adds a lot of charm to the game. It also has a daft little narrative that isn't anything to write home about, but its voice cast features a collection of great British actors such as Dawn French, Stephen Fry, and Richard E. Grant. Whilst it doesn't reinvent the wheel or make Mario shake in his dungarees, it's a fun game that's in a genre that isn't really well represented on the PS5, and it's a game that was recently available on PS Plus, so it may be sitting in your PS Plus library to redeem. If you're looking for a game to cheer you up, look no further than Sackboy and his wonderful adventure. And the final game on the list is the Dark Pictures Anthology series. The Dark Pictures Anthology series has been going around for a few years now, coming from Until Dawn and the Quarry developers Supermassive Games. This is a series of games aiming to be the first ever video game horror anthology series. Each game in the 4-game strong franchise all tell their own self-contained tales from a haunted ship, suspected vampires in the midst of a war, and a terrifying house of torture. If you played Until Dawn before, and you'll have a good idea how the games play. They're fun, linear, story-driven games where you choose your dialogue choices and complete QTEs to move the story forward. These decisions dictate on how the story pans out and who lives and who dies. It's a simple premise, but it's worked so well for Supermassive over the years, and it's easy to see why. Delivering some fiendishly wicked tales and some outstanding looking graphics, and even some big name guests starring in the game such as Will Poulter and Jessie Buckley, to name but a few. But one character is a recurring face, and that's the deliciously dark curator, who laps up the scenery, who recaps your decisions and failures. He's so darn great in the games, and you can tell the actor who plays him is having a whale of a time. As for the series, there's 4 games currently, with another one coming out later this year. The first 2 games, Man of Medan and Little Hope, were only on PS4 at the time, but have since received a free PS5 upgrade with new graphical options and extra content. But House of Ashes and Devil in Me are both available to be bought natively on the PS5. I have the pair of them in a cool double pack. If you want a creepy collection of horror games to spend a weekend evening, then look no further than this cracking series of little horror games. And with that, the list is over. What do you think of the games I've talked about? Have you played them? Have you heard of them? Or have you got some hidden gems you'd like to talk about? Tell me all in the comment section down below, and we'll have a good old chat about some classic hidden gems of PS5 games. As always, thank you for taking the time and watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it. You stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.